Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of Echoes of Eden. Today, we're going to be talking about grace.
Man, I can't. This. So the week before we had even thought about it, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even think about the podcast for a bit. I was just too focused on other things because obviously you'll know by the release of our schedule, we make a post once every other week. But Lord willing, we get more consistent. It's the beginning of something. The Lord doesn't despise new beginnings. Things take time. So, but yeah, I'm very excited about the topic of grace. It was honestly between two topics, and we felt as if grace is needed to talk about. Especially when you're coming off of talking about prayer, and then we're talking about new converts, whatnot. Grace is very important. Grace is something we need every day. Yes, we need the love of God, but second to none, we need grace and His mercy. So, can't wait to discuss about it. Do you think it's better if we start off with the story first?
We can. We can go ahead and do that. So I'm taking a different approach here today. I'm not going to be like breaking down a lot of Greek. I will say I do have to break down some Greek and Hebrew. But today I just want to look at the story of Ruth. I feel like this is a really good story about grace and redemption. A lot of redemption, but grace. So the story of Ruth, for those of you who haven't read it or haven't heard about it, this woman, Naomi, and her husband moved to the land of Moab with their 2 sons. Her 2 sons marry. They have wives. One's name is Ruth, and the other one's name, I cannot remember at this moment.
That's fine.
That's okay.
That's okay.
But what happens is that Naomi's husband, Ruth's husband, and then the second son as well, they all pass away while they're in Moab, and all 3 women are left widowed. Naomi decides to return to her homeland, which is Bethlehem, and at first her 2 daughter-in-laws go with her, but at some point in the journey, I think it's at the very beginning actually, she tells them, I'm old, I'm not going to have any more sons, you guys should just go back home to your birth families, go back with them. And one of them does end up going back, but Ruth stays with her mother-in-law. She tells her, wherever you go, I go. Your God is going to become my God, and your people, my people. I've heard Ruth described recently as a Jew by choice, which I thought was interesting. Which is really, really interesting, and I'd love to break down another time. But a Jew by choice. And when they get back to Bethlehem, which the journey from Moab to Bethlehem, it is about, I think it's 70 miles. That's going through rivers, over mountains. It's like going through 2 different rivers, over the mountains, just to get to Bethlehem. And in our heads, it's not that long, but I think it took like 7-10 days maybe to do this, if I'm not mistaken. By on foot and as women in this time period is very insane to me.
Very rough.
Because no cell phones, and typically in that time period, it's the men taking care of the women. So the men are doing the fires, hunting, getting all of the stuff that they need to survive.
Doing the carrying and stuff like
that. The providing, especially on the trail. And then this time period, it's just Ruth and Naomi, 2 women who are having to do all this on their journey back to Bethlehem. But when they arrive to Bethlehem, people greet her. Naomi updates them about her husband and what happened and everything like that. And Ruth begins to, after they settle down and everything, she goes to work on a field to get wheat. She does this for 2 reasons. One, to try and get money for her and her mother-in-law, and then to just have food at the house because they didn't have the men providing them, and this was the only thing that Ruth could do at the time.
Right.
So while working on the field, she happens onto the field of Boaz. Boaz, of course, takes notice of her. He finds out more about her by his servants. And then once he learns that they're related through Naomi's family, Boaz begins to kind of cover her and take care of her. He tells his manservants, don't touch her, don't bother her. In fact, leave extra wheat in the fields for her. He invites her to dine with them. He feeds her basically lunch, like on their lunch break, gives her like wine to drink to rest from the work and everything. Just a real divine favor almost. And when Ruth gets back home, she tells Naomi what happened and onto whose field she happened to go onto. And when Naomi hears about Boaz, she remembers that they're related, and she encourages her daughter-in-law to go and basically speak to him. The way that she does this is that she meets him in the greenhouse or the threshing floor, where they're beating the grain to get all of the little pieces off. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if I'm taking too long.
No, you're
but good. She goes, and as he's working, he rests for the night there. She lays by his feet. She has uncovered his feet and lays by his feet. And when he wakes up, he sees her. Fun fact: this is actually a Jewish tradition, like a marriage proposal almost. So Ruth is saying, "Hey, cover me with your garment, like take me under your wing officially, cover me, please be my covering," basically. And when I found that out, I thought that was so beautiful.
That is nice.
Because she's basically she's a woman going in basically the middle of the night, putting herself in a vulnerable position, and she's hoping that he's going to take care of her and cover her and do the right thing by her. And he does. He's not able to marry her right away because of the redeeming kinsman laws almost of what there was at the time, which is when when a man dies in the family, if he has a wife but they haven't had children, the next closest relative, male relative, is supposed to marry her, get the land and everything, and will help her have a kid in the name of the husband that died. And this is just to carry on the name of that person, so that there's still somebody with that lineage. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So Boaz has to check with Ruth, the closer relative, first, and after he denies it, says that he doesn't want to give up what he has already.
Right.
Because in order for Boaz to have, in order for them to have redeemed Ruth, is what it's called, so marry her and get the land and everything, that person that does is, one, they have to pay a financial amount of money to buy the land, of course, from Naomi, because she would be the owner of it.
Right.
And then two, there's a second sacrifice that a lot of people don't talk about. That firstborn child that would get the name of the other person, that man is basically giving up an heir or of their own home for that. So the first guy didn't want to do it, and Boaz said, "I will do it." And there he makes it final. He marries her, and all of this, and everything plays out, right? So that's the story, as summarized as I can get it.
Right. You can slightly understand how it's like the future prophetic of Christ himself. Right?
Exactly.
He paid that price.
Exactly. So how does this tie into grace? What does this look like? If Boaz, how is this grace, right? If we look at it like this, grace is defined as, of course, favor, charm, and then grace is in itself for the Hebrew word, right?
Right.
We see it throughout the story. Boaz sees her, he knows her. The part that I liked, and it's kind of a little bit of a stretch, Boaz knew Ruth before she knew who he was. God, the same thing happens with us in God, is that he's known us from the beginning of time. He's known who we were before we knew who he was. And it's just a small thing, I know Boaz learned about her, but I saw that and I was like, I see some similarities here.
But think about this. How can we tie, because we know, right? How can we tie the story of Ruth to grace? Think about this. Before Ruth was married. This reminds me of Isaiah, when the children of Israel, right? This is redeeming grace. Go to Isaiah 54, the first verse. Sing, O barren. Think about this. She was widowed, right? Here comes Boaz, right? The picture of Christ redeeming his people,
yes,
right? And I think that is a perfect picture. It is a beautiful painting of what grace is.
Yes, it is.
You went from barren to now just completely fruitful, right? It's like, I think in Isaiah 54 talks about sing. He literally says, rejoice. You will have more kids than the one that had than the married woman with her husband.
Yeah.
Meaning God restores. And that's exactly what Ruth had. She had restoration. But please further tie into that. How does that story, from her being a widow, then ultimately being redeemed, paint the picture of grace?
Yeah, you basically hit it right on the head of the nail there. So before Ruth married Boaz, she would have been seen as a Gentile woman in the land of Bethlehem. She would have been seen as a widow. somebody who was scrapping for money, poor, looked down on. This is before marrying Boaz. Boaz. After marrying Boaz, she became a part of the community. Her identity was completely changed. She was now a woman of grace, a woman
That's good.
of character.
That's good.
She was known. Um, Let me see real quick. She was redeemed and her identity was changed. She was considered a part of Israel. Her past was erased.
Yes.
She was no longer existing in the same identity of a Gentile woman. The same thing happens today in our walks with Christ, especially in the beginning, is that without the grace of God, without the grace of God, she would have been left a Gentile woman.
Right.
For me, without the grace of God, I would have been left broken with anxiety and depression and all of this other stuff that I was battling with.
Right.
But by the grace of God, Ephesians 2:8 says, "For by the grace of God, you are saved through faith, and not of yourself. It is a gift of God." Without this gift of grace, I would have been unrecognizable today.
That's good, because again, Boaz had no think about this. Oh man, Boaz had no obligation to go to the brother and
Exactly.
say, "Hey, are you going to marry Ruth?" He had
Right.
no obligation. He wanted to. God wanted to take Barabbas' place. It was for his spot to take.
Exactly.
Pilate was like, "You're going to be killed." He says, "No, I'm the one that lays down my life, and I'm the one that able to pick it back up." He wanted to for the sake of his people.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Jesus even told Pilate, "You wouldn't have any power unless it was
Right.
given to you by God."
That's so good.
Like,
he had no power.
divine
I'm the
timing
one.
and grace.
I'm the one that puts it down, and I'm the one that's able to bring it back up. Right. The same thing. Ruth had no say, because why? Boaz pursued her. The same way in which Christ pursued us, right?
Yeah.
Man, when the children of Israel came out of Babylon exile, Isaiah 43. I'm sorry, 53 and going to 54. God continuously pursued them. After they had, sinned, great sins, they went after different idols, yet God still says,
"I will still redeem you.
I will redeem you.
Yep.
I will sing barren, rejoice." Why?
Yep.
Because God's going to be more free. He's going to bring fruitation. He's going to bring comfort. He promises mercy. He promises restoration. And guess what is the best thing? He promises no shame.
Yeah.
Right? Because look, he took the shame on the cross. Think about this, right? People paint the picture of, oh yeah, he was wearing clothes. I get it, but he was bare on that cross. He took shame on that cross. It was, man, think about this. It's more than just sin. He took shame. He took humiliation.
No, absolutely.
He took embarrassment. He was spat on, punched, kicked. He was mocked.
Right? So the crucifixion itself, in Roman history, it is known as the most humiliating way to die or to be executed, because of everything that he goes through. Right. He's literally, it says in the Bible, he's stripped of his garments. They beat him till he can't walk.
Yeah, he could not walk.
Mind you, this is the King of Kings. This is God manifested in the flesh.
This is the God outside the universe, outside of time. Time has to operate within his realm.
With a single word, he could have made everything stop, but he took it on willingly. Having you and I in mind is the crazy thing.
That's insane.
It is.
Now here we go. I'm going to read Isaiah 54:1. Yeah. And this is the King James Version. Isaiah 54 verse 1. It says, "Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing, and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child." Meaning you were not even in labor, but yet he still says to sing. Why? "For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the wearied wife, saith the Lord." He promises restoration. Even they had backslidden from God. They had forgotten about the God that took them out of the land of Egypt, right? But yet he still says, you will have more children, even than the married woman, the married wife, right? And he promises that you will not be ashamed. Yep. You will not be put to shame. And he commands them, he says, fear not.
Yeah.
Taking into account what grace is doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter what you did, I will still pursue you, right? Same portrait, right? Widowed, right? Okay, I'm gonna paint a slightly different picture. What about this? What if Ruth had divorced the husband instead of, right? Or let's say something else happened. She was still previously married, but still Boaz decided to still chase after her.
Absolutely.
Right? I think the part that hit me was Boaz literally went to the brother and said, are you willing to marry her? If not, it's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. If it's not you, it's gonna be me.
Absolutely.
And I feel like Boaz still would have tried anyways, regardless of the brother was like, maybe. I feel like Boaz
he would have been like, I need an answer right now.
Boaz
what
is
are
like,
you doing?
I'm putting my foot down because I want her. You know, it's that redeeming. She is no longer labeled as a widow.
Yeah.
She's now married. Bringing into covenant, right? Just like Israel considered barren, you have left your husband, right?
Yep.
But God says, no, I want you to come back. I will restore you.
Yeah.
That's literally essentially what the story of Ruth is.
It is. It's restoration.
It's so beautiful. No more Gentile.
Yeah, and then to add on to it, I forgot to bring this up. So Ruth is a Moabite woman. She comes from the land of Moab, which, if you don't know who Moab is, do you remember Lot from Genesis?
I remember Lot, yes.
Do you remember what his daughters did to him when he was drunk in the cave?
Yes, that's where Moab.
Yes.
That's where Moab was born.
Yep, his oldest daughter's son from that act that happened, it was Moab. He founded the city of Moab, which means that Ruth comes from a history of turning away from God, from a history of a great sin. It's passed down from generation to generation, and yet it was all erased the moment that she had her new identity with Boaz. All gone. So it doesn't matter the generational curses that you may have on you. It doesn't matter the things that you may carry. It doesn't matter what your parents have done and what they put onto you, the burdens.
Those things do not label you, or that you do not identify as that.
Nope.
You no longer have to carry that fake identity, that fake weight, that false label that's been carried out since Moab, since you're Moab.
Exactly.
Right? It's been broken the day God went into covenant with you.
Exactly. The moment you have that covenant, which in the story would be the marriage between Boaz and Ruth, the moment you have that, wiped away.
And it's so good.
It is beautiful, and it is truly, truly grace.
That is amazing.
So to kind of, I guess, close it out, I looked at the Greek definition for the word grace. It's kind of, I'm going to mispronounce it really bad.
That's okay.
Charis, I think is how you say it. Of course, it means like favor, grace.
Yes.
My favorite definition, it was Strong's definition in like the concordance. It is the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life, including gratitude. I want to say that one more time, okay?
Say that again.
I'm going to say it a little bit slower.
Put an emphasis on that last part.
The divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life, including gratitude.
Including what?
Gratitude. The praise, the joy.
It's the thanksgiving.
Your life can go from by God's grace, by his salvation, by all of this gift that he has for you of grace and mercy and love and salvation. Your life is going to be completely changed. Amen. It starts in the heart, and in the heart it's going to turn your life from mourning and sorrow and depression and from whatever you're going through to joy, true peace, and gratitude and praise. You'll find yourself, like, even from my own experience, you can be in the middle of having like an anxiety attack, and then you'll just remember who God is or what he's done, and he'll give you this memory, and it'll turn into praise. And this praise is how you fight your battles. By grace, your life is going to be changed.
That's so good.
But yeah, so
that is awesome.
I think that is everything that I had. Let me see. Oh, okay. One last thing, and it's slightly a little bit off topic. Okay.
That's fine. Go for it.
Ruth chapter 4, verse 15. And I saw this and I loved it so much. This is after Ruth has been married. She has the first child. And there are women talking to Naomi. She says about the grandson. So it says, "And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law which loveth thee, which is better than 7 sons, hath borne him." This, in their sense, in their understanding, may have been talking about Ruth's son Obed. But if those of you who know your genealogy, which is slightly a pain to read through, but it is definitely worth it. It is definitely worth it. Jesus comes from the lineage of Ruth and Boaz. Jesus is this future child, this future grandchild that comes from this line of Ruth that is going to be our restorer, that is
Right.
our restorer
Right.
today.
That's good.
And I just saw that verse and I was like, I know what that's talking about.
That's
It
so
was just a
good.
brief tangent I wanted to bring up.
Wow,
But
that's so good.
that's everything that I had from this story.
That's so good. That's awesome. Like the whole story, like beautifully paints a picture, more than just redemption, but by grace.
Yes.
Right? God didn't have to allow that.
No.
It was a
Boaz,
setup.
exactly.
Right.
Boaz did not have to tell his servants, let her have this, give her this,
That's
let her
favor.
come dine with
That's
us.
favor.
It's
right?
favor.
So sometimes
so
I go all the way back to Noah's Ark. When Noah found favor, I always think about God. Because think about this, God always extends grace. But towards his chosen ones, I feel like he extends an extra hand further for his own purposes.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Because again, he had warned the people, 100 plus years before the rain happened. He said, guys, turn back. Yep. Turn away from your sin. But once the flood happened, grace extended to Noah. He was able to get into the boat by God's grace, and God shut the door on him. That's extension. Everyone had grace between the period of him building it and the flood happening. Because
they saw the whole time.
The extra grain, that's extra favor. That's extra grace.
Absolutely.
Right? By itself, her getting the field, grace. But then he's like, no, let her have the extra wheat.
Right. Purposely.
It's an extension of his. I've always pictured this. You're walking, but then his hand's like over you, like he's extending his arm. Right. I've always pictured it like that. So my end side of it is the definition, breakdown, application, and just basic struggle. You go to 2 Corinthians 12, Paul is talking about the vision of paradise, and he gets a humbling, allowed by God, by Satan, right? He says this in verse 7, unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my grace is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Now, I'm going to take a little different approach, because we talked about, the two things popped in my head was breaking generational curses, right? Yes, we are saved by grace through faith, but it does not eliminate struggle. It does not eliminate the temptations of the past. You can get delivered all you want, but then it's up to your job to stay delivered.
Absolutely.
Right? Go back to Galatians 5:1, right? Read that verse. He has freed you. He's given you liberty from the bondage of slavery, right? The yoke of I forgot bondage, but it's talking about the law, right? But it's also up for you to not be chained back into it, right? It's so easy to get so looped in by numbers and commands when you realize you've been saved by what? Through grace, by faith, right? We have this job of keeping ourselves free, right? He has set us free, and then we must walk in it. But it will not ever eliminate struggle. It won't ever eliminate that. And for those who honestly struggle with grace, you have to understand grace is more than just, I've sinned, okay, I can get back up and try again. No, grace is saying, I am able to get back up and also literally continuously stay delivered, overcome what I have previously struggled, even past deliverance, right? It's waking up another day and saying, I've been delivered, I can walk in that same thing today. Instead of, oh God, please help me. First of all, he's already helped you. You've already been delivered. It's your job to stay in, right? It's hard at times, right? We walk in this body of flesh, right? Grace, and you've defined grace as, favor, and the other definition. My definition of grace is, it's the empowerment of God. Grace gives you the ability to see another day and say, I don't want to do this again. God help me, right? Because without grace, I could sin, go to sleep, now wake up.
Exactly.
By grace, I am able to wake up another day and make a decision to choose God. Hey God, please help me from this. Please help me from that. Right? Lean on his power. Right?
Would you say grace is that opportunity to turn to God?
It gives you the opportunity to say no.
Okay.
To sin. right? It gives the opportunity. And then let's go to 2 Corinthians 12:10. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities and reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. I'm going to say this very blatantly. You cannot have grace work in your life if you're not willing to admit your weakness. You cannot have it work.
Yes.
Power only comes through when I first emptied myself, right? We live in this earthly vessel. We live in this body.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to eliminate what's in here, allow his cup to fill mine.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
You go back to Psalms 23, was it verse 5? Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life.
Yep.
But in order for those things, I must put down my pride. I must accept weakness and then let his cup fill mine.
Absolutely.
My cup runneth over. But the cup cannot run over if I'm too stuck up on myself.
Yep.
Right? So first things is you have to empty what's inside of you. Be honest. Tell God, Lord, I really struggle with this. Lord, I really hate this. Tell him how you feel. You cannot be filled up if you're not willing to first pour out what's not meant to be there.
Absolutely.
And that's the empowerment.
Yes, absolutely. That's something that I was studying too for later on when we go into our outreach, is that how can you expect God to change your life if you haven't opened up your heart to him?
Right.
If you haven't softened it and if you haven't just given him everything.
You don't fill up fresh water in like how can I say, like if I had, I don't know why I had this random painted picture, but like you ever go to like those nuclear sites, like those waste sites?
Oh.
Like those they have like those barrels. It's like for like nuclear waste.
Yeah.
You're not gonna fill that up with just fresh water. It becomes dirty again.
Yep.
You cannot fill something up until everything inside has been cleaned out.
Right.
You have to admit, when I am weak, then I am strong.
Yeah. The same way that there's an exact process for that nuclear waste to clean it, to get rid of it, the same way within ourselves. And the process is through Christ's refinement. Is
Right.
that he's going to clean you. He's going to fix you.
Right. Inside out. Right?
Exactly.
First is internally, then the outside process happens.
Exactly.
Right. But application of grace is, you want to see grace work in your life? Okay. The very moment you wake up, that's when it starts. The very moment you're able to wake up another day, I am either going to say one of two things. God, this day's hard. Or two, Lord, thank you for waking me up. Because I probably shouldn't be here. I probably shouldn't have woken up today. But you've given me what? Another opportunity in this day. Right? This is the day in which the Lord has made. We shall be glad. I shall be glad and rejoice in it. Right? He didn't have to make another day. He just said, you know what? That's it. No more.
Literally,
but that's the opportunity to, again, walk with him. Walk in alignment. Hey, God, I want to stop this. I want to stop thinking about that. I want to stop cussing. I want to stop watching that. I want to stop hanging out with these people. I want to stop this bad habit, my smoking addiction, my drunk addiction, whatever it is. It's another day.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And you have to be able to understand. We will never fathom the full understanding of God's grace. We just have to be like, Lord, humble ourselves. Lord, help me accept your grace as what it is, instead of fighting it off as something that needs to be earned. Because that right then and there, that's pride, right? You're unable to let go of what you've been born into and processed with, instead of learning to receive the grace of God. Absolutely. See, when we process grace as performance and something that needs to be added because of what we do, that's not grace.
Exactly. It's not something you can earn.
Grace is never something earned.
Right.
Right. And I feel like sometimes when we do have good and bad days, grace is poured out differently. No. Grace is always poured out abundantly every single day.
Exactly. It's just
never ending, right? For his children, never ending mercies, right? Mm-hmm. His mercies, it's renewed every day. His mercies are renewed every day.
Absolutely.
Right? He doesn't. Pastor said something last week. He said, God is never weary. He's never tired. He's never going to be tired.
Yes.
If you ever feel like God's tired of you, ever weary, I rebuke that in Jesus' name. That's fake.
Yes.
God is never tired. Mm-hmm. God does not sleep. He's not like man. He does not sleep, nor does he lie.
Exactly.
Nor does he lie. If he says, my mercies are renewed every day, my grace is far more over than your sin, or sin abounded more, grace aboundeth more than sin.
Absolutely.
Take it by word. right? You can't just sit up here and just be like, oh God, I'm too falling apart. No, no, no. To abuse, one way to abuse God's grace is to really reject it. You
Yep.
say, Lord, you say, oh, well, I don't want to abuse God's grace. By rejecting it, that's abuse because He's already given it to you freely,
Exactly.
especially if you've been saved,
Yeah.
right? Right? We know abusing grace is one of two things: knowing what you ought to do, you don't do it, right? Not turning away. But the second one is if you feel too far apart and you keep denying it, that's also abuse, right?
Yep. For Bible nerds, I don't know how many of you guys know about dispensations or anything. We are in the dispensation of grace. So before Jesus died on the cross and rose again, it was the law, strictly the law. And then Jesus came and changed it. He fulfilled the law, and we are in a time period of grace. From the day that Jesus rose again, appeared,
Right.
and the Holy
Yes.
Spirit fell, all the way until the day that Jesus comes back for us, we are in the period of
We
grace.
are in that period
It
of
is
grace.
daily grace that is outpoured on us. You have the choice to either accept it or to allow your heart to stay hardened by it.
Oh man, this is so it's funny. The verse that came into my head just now was really the verse that I read this morning. Many times we can have really hard mornings, right? We don't know what the day's going to come. We might carry burdens of yesterday, or the devil might remind us of something in the past. But here's something interesting. So in Psalms 33, right? This is God's goodness, by the way. You could say, well, how can I see His goodness? How can I see His love, His grace? Psalms 3:5 says, He loveth righteousness and judgment. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. The earth.
Yep.
You can say, well, how can I see God's goodness? Look at nature. He supplied all that for you. Before Adam and Eve was ever made, He first what? He formed the earth habitable.
Yes.
He formed it habitable for man.
Exactly.
To rest, not to work. Yes, to work, but it was a place of rest to work in.
They didn't, especially the Garden of Eden, man, which is so fitting for a name. He crafted that as a place of rest and abiding with Him.
Right.
They didn't work for it. They didn't have to till the ground yet in the garden. It was just dwelling with God there. And then the fall caused us to work. Sorry, I just
it's awesome. Like, you want to see grace? You have a hard time? The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. Yeah. The fact that you're able to look at trees again, breathe, everything around you screams grace.
Yes.
He could have put us in an uninhabited planet and just say, here you go, guys. Do it by yourself. But no, He gave it freely. It's not, we did something. It's He gave it freely.
He did something.
He did something. We must be willing to lower ourselves.
Yep. And it goes back to that question of free will. God's not, the Bible describes Him as a gentleman. He's not going to force Himself on you.
He's a gentleman.
He gives you the choice of, this is the things that's going to happen to you if you follow me. He tells us plain out.
Right.
The fruits of the Spirit is grace, peace, love, joy,
faithfulness, self-control,
exactly.
All these things, hope,
all of these gifts, things. If you follow Christ truly and live with Him and walk with Him daily, His grace is telling us these are the things I have for you to bring you out of these things of the world, the lust, the temptations, the sins, the drunkenness of the mind and of the physical drunkenness, like
we can't fall into this mindset of grace is only poured out when I do good. And don't get me wrong, I've been guilty of it, right? Sometimes
absolutely.
There's days where I'm super consistent and then a thought comes to my head, or I'm spending too much time on this, and I'm like, oh, I've fallen from grace. That is a lie from the enemy. Mm-hmm. We have to be able to go to God humbly. God, please help me. Receive your grace. Receive everything. Because it's freely given, right? Most of us here, we were never born into freely stuff given. We had to earn it and work for it.
Yeah.
So we must have to be like, God, help me put aside this side of the old man.
Everything that was beat into me.
Everything that's been put into me, Lord. Renew my mind by grace. Mm-hmm. He allows it to happen. And I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Again. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've had. So I'm going to do a recap of my side. Obviously, went through grace. Went through the story of Ruth. The application of grace, right? You have to understand. Grace is freely given, whether you like it or not. The same way Barabbas was free, whether he liked it or not. He had zero say in his salvation.
Absolutely.
He had zero say because it was Jesus Himself who said, I'm the one that lays down my life. I choose to by my Father's will. And I'm the one who's able also to pick it back up. It is not you.
Yeah.
It is simply my doing, my Father's will. It's my Father's cup in which I drink.
Yeah.
Right? The application of grace. It gives you the opportunity to say no. And when you do fall, not if, when.
Yep.
It's never if. You're human, you're always going to fall. But we do have chances where we can always escape, right? First Thessalonians 5, there's a part that says like, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was 5:18. I might be botching it, or like maybe it's verse 20. Abstain from all appearances of evil.
Yep.
Right? Do not put yourself in a spot where you know you will be tempted.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
But even if that's the case, there is still grace for you. Grace is not based off performance. Grace is the goodness of God.
It's a gift.
It is his character. Because once we start to trust our character over his, oh
man.
See, but many people struggle with that, right? But you have to be willing to pour yourself out first to be filled up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I cannot be full of myself and say, God, I can't be saved. I can't be this. I can't be that. But when you submit yourself to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Mm-hmm. You're feeding into the devil's lies by saying, I'm too much.
Yeah.
The cross was more than enough. Absolutely. The cross was too much. No other human can take it but God himself, right? He had to be both man and God for him to bear the cross.
Absolutely.
If it was only man, he wouldn't have made it. If he was only God, there would be no redemption because he needed to be man. So, again, we have to humble ourselves, ask God to help us receive his grace, help us understand just a little deeper. We will never be satisfied enough to understand the futility of God because he is limitless. He's outside this world. But what he can do is keep us humble, hungry, and just, hey, God, let me learn to accept your love.
Absolutely.
So if you want to do a recap of your side, the story, to those who are watching again, because we did cover a whole bunch of stuff.
We
covered
quite
grace insanely.
I think just the main thing is,
you're not your past.
Yeah, you are not your past. By his grace, we're changed and saved inwardly, outwardly. Everything changes about us. And then just that definition of grace in the Greek is so beautiful.
Grace doesn't just cover your past. Mm-hmm. It's not a rug. He wipes it slate clean.
Completely
clean. He blots out your sin. He doesn't just puts a rug. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
He doesn't cover it and steps and act like it happened. No, he says it's completely just gone.
Yep.
I don't remember. When did you do that? I don't remember. You are forgiven.
Colossians 2, it tells us he blots out the sins and the mistakes that we've done in the past.
If you struggle with it, Colossians 2, 14, 15, right? He disarmed the enemy and made a public spectacle of his victory.
Yep.
He made the enemy's foolishness into his glory. Right? Read Colossians 2. Right? It's very pivotal when it comes to being set free.
Absolutely.
Understanding that the same devil that tempted Jesus is the same devil now.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but yeah, I just want to say that was really good.
Oh yeah. That's everything that I had. God is good. His grace is beautiful. It changes us, it shapes us, and it's led us to who we are today.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Honestly, it was really heavy. This is one of my favorite topics, is grace. Everyone needs to understand how it works and what it is for you. But until next time, we'll see you guys again.